Stand clear.
100% Wild podcast.
So for all you listeners,
hello and welcome to
definitely not your favorite outdoor podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the DruryOutdoors 100% Wild podcast, powered by DeerCast. I am Tim Chelsvik.
I'm Matt Drury.
And we've got the wireless division brand manager here with us in studio.
From GSM.
From GSM, longtime DruryOutdoors team member, Mr. Chris Dunkin.
What's up, Chris?
We've been talking about this for a while. Like, we were talking back in August about having you on. Now we really got something to talk about.
Yeah, it's pretty depressing.
We thought, yeah, it's deer pressing. And we thought you were going to have like a great story about the season, but the story is your season. It's a season of lost causes, right?
EHD, really bad. And yeah, like talking to you guys in August, I was showing you pictures, had a lot of deer that made it from last year. And then right after we met in August, that's when they started dying. And then, long story short, I think that our area in Iowa, I'm pretty sure that we lost at least 70% of our deer.
Jeez.
In my neighborhood.
Which is absolutely devastating. You showed us a picture a little bit ago, and how many dead heads was it?
My neighbor, just that neighbor, has found 18 dead bucks. And he's not like actively out
Not
searching.
even looking.
You know, there's 3 of them. They own 1,200 acres and just kind of out doing random farm task and hunting. They're coming up on them. So
when did they start finding them? And then when did the dying slow down?
Started finding them in August. and then everybody always says when it frosts that that's your saving grace. And that's not true, because we did get some cold weather in October and then in November, and then it warmed up, and then they started dying again. So, we'll see how many I find this year. I haven't went out and looked at all, but
I wonder if the midge, much like I think about it in terms of, when we hunt, if we're hunting in a box blind and in the early season, tons of flies, you can have tons of flies. And then in the cold weather, everything's dead. But then if it warms back up, it's all of a sudden it's Lord of the Flies again inside the blind. So is the midge similar where it just kind of pops out of it?
It's gotta be. And if you guys have like Japanese beetles, those things that look like ladybugs.
Yeah.
And then every time it frosts, and then they kind of go away, and then your house warms up and
they're all in there
warm.
In the wall.
Yeah, that happened like 5 times this year.
Yeah.
And I would say that, I'm not a biologist, but I would say it's the same thing. Like I know I had deer that were super healthy first week in November, and then they were finding them dead, 2 weeks later.
And what kind of water do you have on your property?
There's where he found most of his, there's a big creek to the south. And, from that waterway, it was like a 6-mile stretch that guys were finding them. So I was north of that, my farm about half a mile, and I've got a smaller creek on my farm and a couple ponds. And I haven't actually found any, but I really am pretty conservative about how I hunt. I don't go into my woods ever until after season. So, but knowing just running as many cameras as I do, and knowing the history on these deer and what their habits are, I might lose a few every now and then that, maybe they get killed or they actually do, go to a different spot and leave my place. But typically I know what these deer are going to do every year as far as like what my home bodies are, and deer that have been on my farm for 3+ years have just vanished. Yeah. So
that's the thing. When your pictures go from what you're accustomed to, it's non-scientific, but it's their best way as a kind of just your general hunter to know, all right, my deer herd looks like this typically on a typical average night. I get this many pictures across this many cell cameras or regular cameras or whatever. And then all of a sudden when it dies down to nothing and the conditions are right and they should be moving, it's like something's not right here. And I think Mark, those guys, have dealt with that all fall as well. And he runs enough cameras where he's dialed in. He knows exactly. He's like, man, they're dead. And then, you get reports like what you're saying, where a neighbor actually is finding them and not even looking that hard. You're like, God, that's terrible.
And it's so pockety too, right? Like I've got a few other farms that I hunt that are in the same county, and one of them's only 3 miles away. And that place I can go late season and see 60+ deer. My farm last year, the most deer I saw late muzzleloader season was right around 80 deer. and 20 some different bucks. Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I haven't sent any footage in this year, because I don't have any deer to hunt.
Yeah.
Honestly. And
I was wondering.
I the last time I hunted, and I just gave up. I'm like, okay, I'm done. But the last time I hunted, I saw 2 fawns. And I've got some deer that are still around. The weather wasn't conducive for movement, but like, honestly, if you have a low pressured area, even if it's not ideal conditions, you're still going to see good deer.
Yeah.
You're still going to see quite a few deer.
Yeah.
So they're just not there, but that's why we're trying to make that farm the best it can be, because we're going to, it's just part of what we're dealing with now, and it'll build back up.
And you're talking about your home place. It's you live there on the farm itself. So you beautiful setup in the beginning of the property there, the front of the property, yes. Your house and set up. And then behind you is kind of your farm. So yes. It's a long-term deal. It's not like you're going to just, I'm going to flip it and go find something else. You've done a ton to improve. We talked about this when you were in July or August or whenever that was, all the programs that you've kind of come to find out about and implemented through, your Department of Conservation there in Iowa that have helped you really cultivate and make it not just a whitetail habitat, but habitat for, I think you said, what was it? Pheasants and, all kinds of different things.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of different programs out there. And once we acquired the land, that's when I started looking into what programs were available to help cost share. It was stuff that I wanted to do anyway, but if the government's going to help cost share and offset those costs, it makes sense. And, like one of the things with our place in Southern Iowa, it's full of honeysuckle, and honeysuckle is a plant that'll just take over, and it gets so thick, you can barely walk through it. So they've got brush management programs. They'll pay you X amount an acre to go get rid of it. I find out in February if I qualify for that. And right now from what the NRCS has told me, is there's more funding available right now than there ever has been for these programs. So I'm going to be doing that. I've got the Pheasants Forever biologist. He's going to meet me next week, actually. And we're going to go through the property. And then what's nice is those guys, they deal with this stuff every single day. So I grew up pheasant hunting, quail, pheasants, and upland bird hunting. So I'm going to lean on him, and he's going to, draft up a plan and say, hey, maybe we could do edge feathering here. And I don't know what else they've got in the works, but essentially it's helping find ways to offset the cost of the farm plus make the habitat better.
Yeah.
What is the method that they are prescribing for the honeysuckle removal?
You've got some different options. So what she had told me that they wanted me to do at first was you just got to get rid of it by either brush cutting it with a skid loader, hand cutting it, which would literally take me 25,000 years. And so I'm going to get a skid loader in there. Also, she said she's even
spray it afterwards.
Yeah. So there's the initial takeout of it. Right. So you're going to get like up to, and this isn't spot on, but you're going to get like 75% of the cost share after you do the initial taking it out. Okay. And then you have to do one more, either prescribed burn or chemical treatment to it, because it'll resprout. Right. Yeah. So then, you'll do that. Then you'll get the other 25%. So you could actually let's say I get approved in February, I get in there. Even guys can rent like a helicopter and have someone spray, right? But you wouldn't be able to do that in February. But I get in there, brush cut it all, and then I do a prescribed burn in November, which I won't, but I could, and then I technically would get the full cost share in one calendar year. And then they actually have, because then if you just let it go again, it's going to come back to what it was, right? So then there's continuous management practices and programs that you can, I believe it was 5 years, she told me, that you could re-enroll it in, and then you do like a fire every year or chemical to keep it from coming back.
I am interested. We should probably do an article on DeerCast on like the origins of honeysuckle, where it came from. Yeah, because we all live. I mean, at least in the Midwest, we all live with it. It's taken over everywhere,
and it doesn't let anything grow. I mean, that's the sad part is, for me, and I don't know what my kids will do with this land someday, right? But like Alex and
honeysuckle farm.
Yeah, it will be. That's the thing. It's good. Like, honestly, Southern Iowa is going to look like Texas It's just going to be shrubs everywhere in a couple 100 years, and I don't want that. And a lot of guys are like, well, it's really good cover. It's really good bedding. And no, I do not. I want to get rid of it. And I want my, I go back in after I get rid of it. I'll do TSI and make that whole ecosystem the best it can be. Because right now there's like no summer food. Like if you go to the thick parts of my farm, a deer could barely walk through it. And then the ground is just barren. And there's no tonnage there.
It seems like we always get the short end of the stick with these invasive species, like you mentioned, Japanese beetles and Asian carp. And you wonder, is there some place in the world that's overrun by smallmouth bass or walleye or something that we've exported that's just like whitetails are crawling all over this place?
I doubt it.
Yeah, probably why do we always get the crappy stuff?
Yeah, I know. Like we have a piece that I leased and have for a long time, and it's just. When I started leasing it, 8 years ago or whenever it was, habitat was great, all kinds of big deer, but now it's so thick. The timber part is so thick. You can't see anything. And it's like, that's great cover, but it's like, I don't really know that it is. how are they moving through there? Like it's, it's, it's all invasives, and is that Scott, is that honeysuckle or what is that up there? What's the main one? All right, we're gonna have to cut that. Scott didn't help me. Well, no, we get a lot of honey locust trees. Yeah, there's a ton of those for sure.
And as we learned in last week's wildlife word, it's beneficial food for deer.
Locust,
the honey locust.
Yeah,
the pods that it drops. Yeah.
Well, I should be good because every tree is basically that's what it is up there. Yeah.
Just watch your eyes walking around.
Scott's still dealing with ankle pain, probably.
There was
stabbed by some.
I was leaving a spot and I just happened to, I didn't have my glasses on and I stopped inches from a thorn that was on a branch that was just about to stab my eyeball.
Terry got stabbed with one once. He was driving his, like an electric buggy down his logging road, and he was going fast and somehow didn't see it coming. It was right after he got LASIK too, and it hit him right square in the eye. Locust,
Oh my gosh!
So it was like beet red, blood red for weeks on end.
Luckily, they didn't go blind.
Yeah.
Doesn't milkweed plant have stickers on it or something? My buddy Dave, like he was like one of those guys that always hurts himself. We fished together in high school and college. He told me about a time he was fishing the Hennepin Canal up in Illinois. He was trying to land a largemouth and the canal's down a little bit. So he's trying to land the fish, eking his way down the little bank. He slipped. And as he slipped, some kind of plant with a sticker on it jabbed him right in the eye. He didn't even have time to blink. And so his eye is bleeding. He's laying there on the bank in the weeds and the fish is flopping around. He's trying to land the bass. The bass breaks the line and gets away. And he's got to walk like half a mile back to his car with a bloody eye and didn't know. And this was back in the day before cell phones. Didn't know where the local hospital was. And
this guy had a rough day.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. The best, he told me about a trip to Thailand where he was on a tut-tut, which is like a little 3-wheeled motorized vehicle.
That's what she said.
Traveling from Bangkok to
I was too soon with it.
Some town out in the boonies, and he got diarrhea. And there was no place.
I got one for that.
I got diarrhea.
He did. And there was no place to go except that the tut-tut driver stopped in this field, and there's all these little Thai kids playing around, and here's this huge white guy losing his innards.
This is the same guy that you're talking about?
Same guy, yeah.
He needs to hang out with Keith Beam, it sounds like.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to throw
Accident
up.
prone.
So my buddy Dave, he was a devotee of Casey's food. We always had to stop for
Why
Casey's.
did you tie that in? Everybody likes Casey's but you son of a gun.
Just trying to bring it back around.
To diarrhea.
So if you want to get stabbed in the eye and have dysentery,
you're barking up the wrong tree, fella. These are Casey's pizza eaters.
We're in Iowa.
I enjoy Casey's pizza.
Don't.
I've held it.
Hold on.
Seen it.
That's what she said.
Never
That's
gets old.
I don't think so, Tim.
So getting back to the EHD side of things, what do you think about, like, what is your plan for next year, the year following? Are you taking time out for 5 years?
No, we're not going to take a timeout. We'll just be, super selective on what we harvest. The unfortunate timing of this, it's always unfortunate when obviously you lose 70+% of your deer herd, right? Like that sucks. But there was almost like too many deer before, so like I said, I would see like 80 deer in like a 3-acre standing bean field, which, those deer are getting pulled in, but everybody I've talked to, they're like, hey, you need to, so I had the depredation biologist come out last summer. And so we shot like, I don't remember what it was, 13 or 15 does off my property last year.
And then they died.
And then now they're all dead, which they probably would have died anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's bad timing. So, I don't know exactly. I hear things like one of the guys I was talking to about this, he manages a lot of land in Iowa, and he was telling me how he implements these like feeding programs, and he's running feeders on thousands of acres, which would be super expensive. I own 155 acres. So obviously it's still expensive to feed deer, but he's feeding deer and he's using
hand feeding. Or
no, like in a feeder.
He's just fun to
ignore Tim.
Here.
So he's mixing stuff with his feed, and he's like swearing it works. And I don't recall exactly what it was, but maybe I'll look into that more.
Gummies.
Look into that more. Kind. And we still have a couple deer that are around that are nice, that are mature, but they weren't consistent. And I'm like, about a week and a half ago, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I need something to hunt next year.
Yeah.
And the hunting now, and I've said this before, but like the hunting is more secondary now than before I owned land. Management. Yeah. I love that. I have way more fun doing that, like, than hunting. I still love to hunt, obviously, but this is the first year in Iowa since 2004, 2005 that I haven't shot a buck.
Yeah.
Jeez, how old are you?
37.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty
old. And I'm not even mad about it.
Really?
I'm not even mad about it.
Furious.
That I'm 37 or that you didn't shoot a buck.
Know how close you are to the Reaper?
No.
Holy cow.
That he didn't shoot a buck, because Tim's living that life as well.
He's more used to it than me, though.
I have a multi-year plan to kill a mature buck. You guys are like, oh, I'm going to go out this season and shoot a buck. That's checkers. I'm playing chess. Just give me 3 more years.
Yeah, one day you'll kill one.
Mm-hmm. And then you'll be sorry.
Why don't you? Are you putting in for Iowa points at all? Because Mark will let you go hunt. His stuff,
he won't.
Have you asked him?
Don't ask. I'll save you the.
Tacitly offered to let my daughter come up and kill a doe.
Okay. They've got to have a management
Missouri places.
Oh yeah, but I mean,
also there's pride.
I thought you were closer to Mark than that.
I mean, we've hugged.
We've shook hands.
Yes. Don't ask him to spell my last name.
No one can do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not fair. You know what? It's the same on that point. Just this morning, I was typing your name. I had to send somebody your contact info, and I couldn't.
You got to get permission from
so I had to go look at your name and the contact.
I know there's a K in there. Might be a J. I
get
know.
close, but there's a E. It's always like a rogue E somewhere.
Yeah, the rogue E. Story of my life.
Not the rogue e-bike. It's the rogue E and Tim's last name, Chelzovic.
Yeah, it's a mouthful, 100%.
That's what she said.
Boom.
I was just going to say that.
I don't think so, Tim.
Wow. Chris, what's new at GSM? Like, because I know ATA is like everyone wants to get into ATA, but it's like it's not a consumer show.
Consumers want to, but it's been, and I'm not trying to badmouth it, but it's had a rough road since COVID. And so it's not quite the show it used to be. It used to be you go through there and you couldn't walk through the aisles. There were so many people.
Lots of bedazzled jeans.
And I think there was, yes, it was pitiful. And there was a lot of, probably a lot more mom and pop bow shops at that time.
Yeah.
So that's the customer. They go there to put in their orders for the next year. And it's sad, but there's not a lot of people that attend it. And the reality is, in this day and age, you can put in your order. You really don't need the trade show quite as much, unless you need to go there to see and for yourself and put your hands on new innovation or new product or whatever. But I don't know. It's just a much different show than it used to be.
Yeah, it's a lot different than what it used to be. And a lot of the reasons you just said. And once COVID hit, it hasn't recovered.
No.
But we've got some new exciting products that I'm pumped for the year. So my job with GSM is as you mentioned, I'm our wireless division manager. So, the cell cams are what are near and dear to my heart. So we've got some pretty cool ones coming out, some pretty innovative cameras. One of them we call the Revolver. It's a 360-degree cell cam. So
that's cool.
You can
it's more of a rifle, but go ahead.
You can do a lot of cool things with it through the app. You can make it take photos just in one specific zone. So there's 6 zones. You can do 180 or you can do 360. So we've been testing these pretty heavy since about August. And I'm running all mine in my food plots.
That camera, as it spins, what's the noise factor to that?
I was talking to Matt about that earlier, and that was obviously something you need to be concerned with if you're making a cell camera. You don't want it to make noise. So no, it's very quiet.
Every picture's a deer hopping,
and especially when you're outside, it's a super quiet camera.
Cool.
And it's basically 4 cameras, 4 cameras in one, 6 cameras in one. So it was pretty neat. The first time I put it in one of my plots, it would have been in September. And it was cool because the way there's a setting on it that I was running at the time where a zone would get triggered. So it would move quick, take the picture. But then I had it on where it'll then take the photo of whatever zone's triggered. And then it would take the photo of the zone to the left and right of that. Mm-hmm. So it would get triggered by a deer, but then it'd take a photo to the zone to the right. And I'd see like 5 deer in the back at like 40 yards, that I never would have saw. Mm-hmm. And how many times have we sat there on a plot and you have deer walk behind the camera or
it's my entire late season.
Yeah. So
every time we go to Marthasville.
So it's pretty cool. And like I said, you guys, there's a lot of settings on it. You can do on-demand photos. You can like pick a zone 1 through 6 that you want it to take a photo or video in. It's got 16 AA's that, so all the cameras this year, all of our 2024 cameras are going from 8 AA's to 16.
Does it still have does it have an external power jack on it also?
Yeah. And so I've been running I pretty much run solar on every cell camera.
We've started doing more. I had like a couple Reconic solar panels. And so this year we started running more and more solar panels. And the difference between running solar panels or not, it's amazing how many batteries we eat up on the non-solar panel ones. It's just like, man, I don't know why I didn't just go to this with all cell cameras.
It's a little bit more money up front, but you make your money back because you're not buying AA's anymore.
And more than that, the money factor is huge, but more than that, the hassle of your camera dying on you. Like we think, okay, I think there's a couple key cameras out in the lease where we're hunting right now that are dead. And it's a terrible time for them to die. I got like 5 days left in the season or whatever it is. It's like, I need the intel. Mm-hmm. So it's that aspect of it as much as anything.
Or you got a camera in another state on a piece of ground you just can't get to. Just set it up and leave it out there.
Yeah, I've got cameras that I've had up since turkey season and I've never went back to them.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. And then, like I do a lot of stuff where in September, for example, or August, I'll go in and mock scrapes or scrapes that I know are going to get hit all season. Mm-hmm. I'll put that camera up and I'll run solar on it. And then I just leave it. Right. So the intel you get from, like Matt said, not going in there, not having to spend money on the batteries is crucial. It's huge.
Yeah.
One of my pet questions when people bring up mock scrapes, do you ever pee in your mock scrapes?
I don't know, but have you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Sometimes I pee.
Tim didn't kill a deer in 2 years, so take that for what it's worth.
I think there's too much testosterone in my urine.
You're like, I probably this smells like protein and your shitty food diet.
Have you ever peed out of your saddle?
It depends.
Let me tell you what.
I just got a real bad visual.
That was that's related to another product feature enhancement I have.
Oh yeah.
Is like the old timey pajamas.
Be careful here, Tim.
With the outhouse flap on the back.
Yeah.
Oh my
if
God.
we could work that in, you could take a sky dump.
There you go. Please don't put that on video.
Could happen. So you better be careful.
Like what?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
So yeah, we've got the Revolver and Revolver Pro, and those 360 cameras will retail as the Revolver as low as $149, and then the Revolver Pro up to $199, and then I don't know what your feelings are on this. I don't know how long you guys have been running cameras, but
I'll tell you.
I always loved the flash cameras back in the day. I did, and guys are like, "Oh, it scares deer," and I'm telling you right now, like it's the furthest. Like some deer are going to get scared of just seeing a camera that doesn't do anything, right? Just from their personality. Some deer, like it could be a low glow red camera, a glowing red light, and those deer don't care. Most of them are going to be like, "What the hell's going on?" But when it comes to flash, the majority of the deer on my farm, in my area, and on my leases in Southern Iowa do not care. And the photo quality is incredible. I love the color at night. I love where a deer could be running by full speed, and that photo is going to be so crystal clear. So that's a new cell cam we're coming out with. And then,
but related to that, if you think about it, like deer live all year long and they see lightning and heat lightning, and like it's just
I almost got struck by lightning. Every time I walk by this tree,
part of their world. Yeah, it's a little bit more localized out of a camera.
And it's something to do with the light. Like they don't know what to do. Like it doesn't spook them. And I used to be that guy where like if I was going in on a morning hunt and it was dark, or leaving in the afternoon or the evening, obviously when it was dark, I'm like, I don't want to use a light. I don't want to use a flight because they're going to be able to see me from hundreds of yards away. I just need to be stealthy as possible. And then, and then I had some buddies that they coon hunt all the time, and they're like, dude, like you need to get the brightest light you can get and use that when you're going to and from your stands. Anytime it's dark, and like just the brightest light. So I use a Cyclops handheld. Okay. It's rechargeable. And this is a little bit off topic, but it's going back to the flash cam, right? Where they're not scared of light. So since I've been doing that the last 2 years, like I can walk 2 stands and like deer will like be chasing does and like looking at me at like 70 yards, 40 yards away. And like, what is that? And then you just walk by, and then all of a sudden the grunting starts again and they're off and doing their business.
I'd have a hard time with that, man. I wouldn't be able to. Like I'm the guy that's like no light. We drive e-bikes in and out without lights. And I don't know, man. I just don't. Now, Terry at his farm, he like when they get back on the tracker or the EV or whatever, he wants all the lights on, and he's like, they don't care. But this is non-pressured, piece. And he calls them residents. And if the deer runs off, it's a non-resident. It's like, they're not used to it. So, I mean, they got their own theories, but man, I just have a hard time with that. Even the light from like a flash, I just have a hard time with that. I don't know why.
Just try it. That's all I'm going to say. Like, just try it. Just do the brightest light you can get, and just try it next time you're going somewhere at dark.
Now we have where like we're in the blind and we want to get out at night, and there's a billion deer out there, and it's like, man, you don't want to open the door and then they just all freak out. We have done it before where we'll turn the camera light on, which is real bright LED, and try to get them like to just get away from that. We've done that a few times, but we've never then walked out of the blind with it on.
Yeah.
I've also, there's like a police light function on this camera light. We've turned that on a lot. Yeah. It's strobing.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like a party up in there. Like, what the hell is happening in that blind?
Yeah.
It's weird. I don't know why they all look at it when they walk by now. That's right.
There's a rave happening.
So yeah, those are the 2 of the new cameras, and 2 of the other cameras we've got are the Deceptor and the Fusion X, which those cameras have been a staple. Deceptor was new last year. Fusion has been in the lineup for like 4 years now, but essentially doing the Deceptor Max and Fusion Max, where they're going from 8 AAs to 16 AAs, and then a bunch of different accessories from new solar panels to rechargeable lithium packs that you can swap in and out of the cameras to external lithium packs that you can charge and hook into the camera, and then you could even daisy chain them too.
Oh, that's cool.
So you could buy like 5 of them or however many. But so that's kind of the exciting stuff in my neck of the woods at GSM for ATA this year.
And it seems like the cell network agnosticism is becoming industry standard. Like most cell cams are coming out now, and they'll run off AT&T,
bounce off
or
any
Verizon,
tower,
whatever's
dual
the
network,
strongest. Just pick it; it'll pick it for you, and that way you have less to worry about in terms of coverage.
Absolutely, yeah. So they've all these cameras have came so far. I mean, I remember the first cell camera, it took like an hour to set up, and you had to pick the SIM card, you had to install the SIM card. Now most of them are coming with dual SIM cards that are pre-installed, and like you said, they can auto connect. And I don't know about you guys, but the majority of people up by me now, the majority of the hunters, now that the price of the cell cams have came down, like a lot of my friends are not even using regular cameras anymore.
That's all I run are cell cams.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I run them like, I hear chatter online, and guys are like, man, I don't agree with using cell cameras. It's an unfair advantage and this and that. I literally read that stuff, but I would argue, like, for me personally, like, I'll be straight up with you. It is saving more immature deer's lives on my farm than if I didn't have them. There's some deer, like there was a deer that we passed that was, he wasn't on my farm. He was on a lease I had, but he was like 165-inch 3-year-old, like going to be a freaking mega. And he like showed up on the cell camera, and it was like mid-November, first week of November. But if I would have had, I just, like you said, we don't want to like walk in there and check the cameras all the time. Right. So if I wouldn't have been going back to that area to check a camera, I would have checked it after the season. So anyways, I got that photo, and then I sent it to a neighbor, and I'm like, hey, do you know this deer? And he's like, yeah, dude, that deer's 3. Here he was last year. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to shoot him.
Yeah.
Now, if I never would have got that, and he would have came out,
shot him, and not knowing
he came out shotgun season. I'm like, I just see this huge frame. I never would have known the deer. But I use him just as much for that as I do surveillance on my farm. I mean, I've got him on my gates. I've got him. We had some issues. Like my farm was like public hunting before I bought it, pretty much.
Any meth labs?
I can relate with that.
And it wasn't even that the previous landowner, like let everybody hunt, but he was older and he just didn't care. And he didn't live there. And he's like, well, whatever. He owned a bunch of ground. He didn't care. So when I first bought it, we started using it to catch people trespassing and shed poaching. And it was a pretty busy first year. But then also, like, I posted a picture. I got a picture of 2 pheasants walking in front of my cameras a couple of weeks ago. And I'm like, yes, like some of the stuff we're doing is working from a management perspective too.
I feel that way about turkeys because we have 4 different pieces that we're hunting, and all of them now have turkeys, and 2 of them never had turkeys. It's like, hey, this is awesome that we can see all the turkeys that are now on it, but I wouldn't have known without having the cell cameras there. I mean, I could have ran regular cameras and, eventually figured it out, but I don't know. It's just, to me, cell cam argument, it doesn't, like, even guys like Mark and Terry and I like really proficient hunters.
Some of the best.
It doesn't, just because you get a picture at 1 a.m. doesn't mean you're going to kill it in the afternoon, or you get a picture at 3 and like, I'm going to go in there at 4. Like, that's not how it works. Like,
speak for yourself.
Has it helped kill deer? Yes. It has. I've had encounters with deer that I went in there because I saw a picture that morning or whatever, and I went in the afternoon. Yes, it does. But you still got to actually go through the mechanics of killing the deer.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And a lot can go wrong.
Absolutely. You still obviously got to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned surveillance. Chris, my buddy Brandon, who listens to the podcast, sent me a picture from one of his cameras. He was like, hey, check this out. And I open it up, and it's an extremely disheveled woman back in the woods with like carrying a plastic Walmart bag, and very like dressed very shabbily. Like you would think that maybe she was
prostitute.
Homeless. Oh, and
I was just wondering.
I was like, oh, that's kind of screwed up. He's like, no, look closer. And so I'm looking around like playing like, Where's Waldo? Yeah. And I see she has a monitoring bracelet on her ankle.
Nice.
Yeah. Very good.
Was a prostitute.
Wow. What is going on there?
So like, was this in an urban area with like houses and stuff?
No, close? It was like out Catawissa, Missouri, which is kind of a rural area.
That's odd. That is odd.
Yeah. What's in the bag? What did she do?
That's funny.
Does she know how that flannel clashes with her jeans?
Yeah, I see so many crazy photos like that people send in, stuff like that. And then
what's the craziest?
I can't even tell you.
Oh,
like it wouldn't be appropriate for the podcast.
Oh, yeah. Tell us off air.
But it was. I do have a funny story.
Here's what we'll do. We'll record it on video, hopefully, and maybe put it in the rack pack.
Okay.
We can maybe do that.
Full of vagrants over there.
I do have a funny story about a surveillance cell cam that I don't know if he's going to listen to this. He might listen to it.
I doubt it. I think
he probably won't. I don't know if anybody listens to this, but
exactly.
But I've got a good friend who went to high school with him, college with him. He owns a farm south of me, like 5 miles. So this was like 3 weeks ago, and he lives like an hour away from his farm. So he's got cell cams up. He's got one that and I know where they're at, right? Because I was with him when we put them up. Mm-hmm. So he's got one like up in this tree at the entrance to his property. It's just like a driveway that goes up into the farm, right? And so we were driving around. It was my wife and I and one of my buddies, and we were driving around in my side by side, and it was just getting dark. So like we drive that side by side all over. We were going to a local restaurant down the road, middle of nowhere, southern Iowa. But I'm like, let's go drive by Bummy's farm. Mm-hmm. So we were getting there and see if there's any deer around or whatever. And we were driving up there. I'm like, hey Zach, I'm like. And I've got I got a handgun in my console, that Can-Am or that side by side. So I'm like, hey, take that and like put your hood up and then just like walk really slow, like up the driveway. And it's getting dark. Like, I mean, it's like the last like 5 minutes light. I'm like, I wonder how long this is going to take before he calls me like, dude, you're not going to believe this. So he grabs my gun and like just kind of walks up the driveway really slow.
We don't condone this. Disclaimer.
He walks up the driveway really slow, and then just like stays up there for like 2 minutes. And then he comes walking down, like, like it looks down. Yeah, it would look shady. Creepy, right? And it's middle of nowhere. Dang. Like I said, it's like 10 minutes later. He calls me. He's like, hey man, what you got going on next weekend? I go, I don't really know. Why? What's up? He's like, dude, I'm going to send you these pictures. He's like, we got to put a gate up on my farm. I'm like, why? He's like, just look at this. So he's texting me pictures. This is like 3 weeks ago.
This is crazy, man.
And anyways, long story short, now I need to probably tell him he needs to put a gate in anyway. No, he has no idea. He still thinks. So like now we're thinking, what's the next step? Like, how do we take this and do something even crazier that he's going to be like, take it to the next level?
I think a rave on his farm right there at the front part of the property.
And they've all these ravers have guns. They're all packing.
It's the Iowa ravers.
So yeah. Anyways, that's my funny surveillance cell cam story.
I bet there's like a detective working on this case right now.
No,
don't waste your time, sir.
He didn't call law enforcement.
Okay, good.
I said, are you calling him? But he goes, no, I'm not. There's nothing they're going to do about it.
Creepy.
That's awesome. Well,
now I know to check my friends first if I get any weird trail cam pictures. Yeah. Check my friend group.
Smart. All right. Well, hey, let's jump into our real wild clip. We've got a kind of a sad and weird, biologically weird one this week.
Do we, Tim?
We does.
All right. So
buddy,
real wild clip. Let's see who's. Oh, it's brought to you by nobody.
Yeah, it's just wild.
Well, why are we doing this? It's brought to you by GSM. All right. So we got a doe here, and she's got 3 legs, a true tripod.
She's got 3.5 legs.
And so this was actually sent in by our good buddy, Kyle McClellan, who's been on the podcast. He was filming a friend of ours, Sal Frisella, who also was on the podcast recently.
That's right.
And this doe popped out, and she's got Lieutenant Dan, you got no legs.
And she keeps waving it like you think that she lost it somewhere in her life because it looks like she's still trying to use it. I figured it was like a fence or,
tied up in a fence or something.
Or during rifle season.
That could have happened too.
But it is weird. She's using it like a phantom limb. You hear about that? Phantom limb, when somebody loses an arm or a leg or whatever, and they feel like it's still there.
Their mind still
thinks it's there. That's basically what the doe's doing here. It's almost like she's kicking the dirt. She's moving around, trying to stand on it.
It's depressing to me to watch.
It is sad.
She's not in pain though. I mean, she's fine.
Yeah, look at her.
You just said earlier you're not a biologist.
She looks healthy. I mean, she looks healthy as a horse.
Yeah,
already.
I shot
to me.
I shot a 3-legged buck like I don't know how many years ago, quite
monster.
a few. But he lived a great life. He had one eye and 3 legs.
Until you killed him.
And for what it's worth, this doe was not in range of, their archery hunting, not in range. So that's why they didn't shoot her.
Yeah. And she keeps depending on it. Like,
well, get rid of one of your legs and see what happens. You would depend.
I probably wouldn't run as much as I do.
Wouldn't be an ultra runner.
I'd be Blade Runner.
Minus
the killing.
Could do one of those, where the guys get in the wheelchairs and they do the basketball in the wheelchair. That's a sport called, what is that called? Dang it.
Basketball.
No. Alan knows it. He's shaking his head.
Just because they're disabled doesn't mean that the sport changes names.
Demolition ball.
Oh,
suck it, Tim.
There's been
like go-karts.
There's been some like really good wrestlers with no legs.
Dude, I've seen this UFC guy.
Champs.
They had him on HBO's Real Sports, and he had no legs, and he was an animal, man. Yeah. He was a UFC. I think it was UFC, or it was definitely mixed martial arts, but he was really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it. Everything you're training to do moves and everything you do on someone with 2 legs.
Yeah.
So then there's been a handful of like really good wrestlers that only have 1 or no legs.
Mm-hmm.
And also you think about how much your legs weigh. So you lose all that weight. Now you got dudes that are wrestling like 125 pounds that are built like 170 pounders, with giant arms. And then, so
I can only wish I was that motivated in life.
It is the best way to cut
think
weight.
about the motivation these people have.
I know.
It's inspiring. What are we doing?
I need to do something. Yeah, it's not good.
Well,
I'm not speaking for you, Tim. Okay.
One of our guys, I'm the exception to the rule. One of our guys in the rack pack, I think he's a quadruple amputee, and he's still out there killing. Yep. He's kind of putting us to shame.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he posted some pictures this year.
Yeah, it's cool. So much a mental game. It seems like. Yeah, just keep moving.
We need to toughen up.
We do. I actually, this is completely off topic again, but we're talking. I did a 4-day fast like 2 weeks ago, and I felt awesome.
Was it what's the UFC owner's name?
Dana White.
Dana White. The Dana White fast.
I saw him talking about it, and
his is 72 hours. I think
he did like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
But once you get to day 3, it was like I wasn't even hungry. I was fine.
I would struggle with that.
You would struggle the first 2 days
too.
But like I had like. My elbow was hurting and
inflammation.
Inflammation and stuff. And then I did that and like, it's crazy, but everything went away. And
except the weight.
The weight did. And I gained it right back. I lost like 12 pounds, but then
I ate
drank beer.
That was not a 12-pound burrito. What the hell?
Where'd that come from? It's like the sucked in mass from the universe.
Then I had a case of beer. And for some reason, I gained it all back.
Weird. It's trade show season, so I'll
start in February.
Yeah, I'll start
mid-February. It sounds like after NWTF.
Yeah, after NWTF, we'll give it a go.
Man. All right. Well, we got a question of the day from our buddy Tyler out of the Rack Pack.
All right. So the question of the day is brought to you by Tenzing Packs. Go further, hunt harder. And this is from Tyler Brown. Tyler Brown says, what do you do with your tree stand after the season? Which is a great question. And I think, and you probably would know a lot more about this. So Chris worked at Muddy for a long time. Muddy ended up being acquired by GSM. So that's kind of how you ended up over at GSM. But I think you're supposed to take it down within like 30 days of end of use of the season, right? It's something like there's certain guidelines that they recommend.
So yeah, if you read the manual on every stand, it's going to have a certain amount of days. But the biggest thing is there's so many things that can happen if you leave your stand up all year, right? Like everything from squirrels chewing on it to the tree growing and the stand getting weaker. So at the end of the day, I mean, we recommend to take them down, store them. And then when you go to put them out the next year, just check everything. Check the straps, check the buckles, check the cables
for sure.
Check all of that stuff. And then even if that stuff's all looks good, which obviously you're not going to hang it if it doesn't look good, but like I cannot reiterate and reemphasize enough to use safe lines and harnesses. And when you're hanging a stand, use lineman's belts, because I just saw that, do you guys see Hannah Barron's dad fell out of a stand?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be negative about this, but there is no reason that people are falling out of tree stands anymore, right? Like, we know how dangerous it can be. All of us think we're invincible, and they think that you can. Everybody that I talk to, when they fall, they're like, "Man, I thought I would be able to catch myself," but it happens so quick. There's nothing you can do. So, it's not worth it. You got to go home to your family. Got to go home to your, live to hunt another day. And it gets to a point where once you start implementing those safety protocols, it's you like, I will not, like, there was a day this year I forgot my literally drove to one of my farms I had permission to hunt, and I forgot my harness.
Won't hunt without it.
I'm like, nope, I'm not going to do it. So, but anyways, I take them down at the end of the year, store them, and then before you put them back out, check everything over.
It's such a weird evolution, because I remember, as a kid growing up, the safety harness was just a little belt.
Yeah.
Remember those little belts?
God help you if you ended up having to use it.
You'd be, it'd split you in half. I mean, like that's, I don't know. I just think about it, and it's like, then we switch. I remember it pretty vividly. Scent Blocker at the time came out with that. Was it Spider?
I think that's might be what it was.
Yeah. And that was, now like all the harnesses now are kind of that style. But back then there was only the hunter safety system harness, and it was a little bit bigger. It was like, like a vest.
Pockets
had pockets. And then Scent Blocker came out with that. I think it was like the Tree Spider is what they called it, something like that.
Yep.
And it was at the time revolutionary. And theirs had a system in it where it actually,
if bungee in there.
Yeah. If you fell, it would slowly like drop you all the way down to the ground, or if I remember. Remember that?
That was like an auto belay device.
Yeah. And it was really cool. But anyways, they had the footprint, so to speak, of the safety harness itself was really small. And it became to where it's like not wearing anything almost. It wasn't in your way. It didn't encumber the hunt in any way.
Had clothes on though.
No. And then there was no excuse. No. So that's what I remember. And that was probably 2007, 2008, maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to think back, but I felt like revolutionized and kind of made wearing the harness cool. And then of course, Muddy, the ones you see the most are Muddy has the one that you see a lot. And then also you see that hunter safety system style one. Those are the two that you see the most of.
Yeah. And there's a ton of different options, right? So like if a guy wants more of a thinner profile, then you'll find that option in Muddy.
Yeah.
If you want one with more pockets, you get like a crossover combo.
Yeah.
Lots of different options. One thing I will say is that a lot of people who just wear a harness, they need to realize that, and I don't know the exact percent, like Brent would know, but I believe the majority of tree stand accidents happen when you're climbing or coming, going up or down.
Yeah. That's what happened to Terry back in the day. That's what happened to that Jeff Barron. He was stepping into a stand, and then the stand just went out from underneath him.
Yeah. So that's where those safe lines come into play.
Yeah.
And once you start using them, and for anybody out there that's listening that has not used a harness, just like anything, it takes a little bit of getting used to. But then once you figure out, like, once you get comfortable with it after just like a couple hunts, you'll get to a point where, like I said, you won't want to hunt without it.
All of our sets have safe lines, all of them. And it's great. It's appropriately named because it makes you feel good all the way. It's easy.
Yes.
Once you get used to it, like the way you climb up and you're pushing it up or climbing down and pulling it down with you, like you get used to it, and you don't even think twice about it. It's great.
The one of the most difficult things about the way that I hunt is when I transition between going from a saddle to a harness and getting used to just leaning out. Then I have to remind myself, you can't lean in this.
Better
this
not
is
do
not
that.
the way you do that. Cause,
that's why I don't hunt in a saddle.
I mean,
that and several other reasons.
He's a man of principle.
And I don't want to be made fun of in the rack pack all day long.
No, it's fun. I love getting memes from people. Hey, the wildlife word this week is brought to you by Hunter's Specialties. Spray down with Scent-A-Way on your late season hunts when deer are at their wariest.
Wariest. Fancy.
Wariest. Okay, so this one's kind of got a culinary flair to it. Densely flavored, buttery, and with a hint of sweetness. That's the way this deer delicacy is described. Is it A, eye socket? Cook you up some eye socket.
Would it be
B, bone marrow, C, hoof, or D, intestine, some venison chitlin.
What say you, Chris?
You know, I have no idea, but if I had to guess, I'm going to say B, bone marrow.
Same.
Bone marrow.
That's what I was thinking. When it said buttery, densely flavored buttery, I thought, bone marrow.
You guys are correct.
Of course we are. Thank you, guys.
And it goes for a pretty penny online. These like specialty meat.
They love them. They love like anything holistic.
Okay.
We can't say that.
No, it was just right on the tip of your tongue. You know who likes the marrow?
I don't see a problem with it,
No,
Tim.
it's good. No, I'm glad you brought that up. It's something that I have, like my wife has made stock from some of the bones from some of the deer that I've shot over the years.
Not this year.
But I've killed some doe. Doe stock is delicious.
Okay.
But I've never actually
yourself that, bud.
extracted. Can't eat the horns. I've never extracted the marrow out of deer bones.
You get like a needle and you're just like,
I don't know how. Yeah, you have to.
I have no clue.
you just boil it or something.
I would think you'd physically want to get it out, but I don't know.
Alan seems very interested.
Help us out in the rack pack if you know how to. Alan's saying on a beef on beef bone, just take a saw and actually cook the bone with the marrow in it, like roast it in a pan. Like cut the bone in half,
and then just leaks out. Is that what?
like foam.
Gelatinous. None of this sounds appealing to me.
No, not really.
You know, I tried to save the caul fat off the last deer
Also
that
not
I
appealing.
killed. And I always struggle because like it seems to get hair in it or grass or something from where but I'm super interested in trying it. I just very rarely get it out without getting stuff in it.
Where's my? Oh, here it is.
I think I'm going to throw up.
There you go.
So maybe if someone's tried bone marrow in the rack pack, let us know what it's like. Is it
What's that guy's
buttery?
name from last week? That
Bow Tiger?
Bo Tiger. If you've tried bone marrow, let us
Tiger's
know.
ready for some bone marrow. Bone saw is ready.
That's great. Never gets old.
Okay, we got some shout outs too. Mark 6, also a cool name in the rack pack, says, I enjoy the tidbits of useful information mixed in with copious amounts of fun and laughter.
He didn't. It's tidbits. It's like there's not much.
Oh, yeah.
There's not much there,
We know what we're good at.
but copious amounts of fun and laughter.
Information.
Best describes us, I'd say.
Yeah.
All right. Last but not least, we got new Rack Pack members in over in the Facebook group, private Facebook group, Drury Outdoors Rack Pack. Go check it out. Tim gives me a list of names. Every week there's a fake one in there I got to sniff out. Every week I butcher everyone else's name. All right. We got Austin Mullins, Wayne Tan. That's an awesome name. Maybe Asian.
Sounds like a cowboy's name.
Wayne Tan.
Oh, he's 100% full blown Asian.
Hunter. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, of course. Any number of people are Asian.
Hunter of critters. Okay. You could try harder than that, Tim.
Dude, keep going.
So that's the real name?
Well, that's the
Okay.
name they gave to Facebook.
Okay.
Can't do anything about
Hunter
that.
Hook.
Hoke.
Garth Fetch. Garth Fesh. Not related to Garth Brooks. Ben Car Kiddo. Ben Car Kiddo. Ben Car Kiddo. And then I read them a bunch of different ways. Usually the same way over and over.
People are dying as they're listening.
Brian Easley, Levi Hardison, Dustin Cisco, Flan Custecki. Flan Custec? Flan Custake? Flank steak.
Kustake.
Hey, flank steak. It's a fake name. So you're telling me
The rest of them are the names they gave to Facebook.
Hunter of Critters. Huh. It's like a Twitter handle. He gave a Facebook name a Twitter handle.
Like Turkey Thug 08.
Oh, original.
Hey, nice job, man.
You're the eighth one.
You know how many birds I
thuggish
called
are you,
at the
fella?
end of this gun?
I like Ben Carkiddo. Carkiddo.
It's pronounced Johnson.
Okay. All right. So have you had enough yet, Chris?
Hey, You guys got me out of setting the booth up, so that was a positive.
I have an important meeting to attend. I cannot help with setup.
Matt, you want to shoot that podcast today about 10 o'clock?
Yeah, we're not even airing this.
10 to 5.
This is just an exercise in futility.
Yeah. No, we needed a guest. Worked out well.
Hey, I'm glad I could help you guys out.
Yeah, appreciate it. Cool. Well, I look forward to being ATA and maybe not getting an illness because there may not be a whole lot of people there.
Well, then what you should do is not shake hands, do the fist bump.
There you go.
That's the only way. Because last year, 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, like everybody got COVID. And it wasn't the COVID year, it was the year after COVID. But everybody left the show with COVID.
Yes.
So
do they charge extra for that? Or
no, it just comes along with it.
Do you have your bedazzled jeans ready to go?
I don't have any, unfortunately. I need to go bedazzle them. See if my daughter will help me out.
Miranda, how do you work this machine? I'm trying to write juicy.
Killer.
Turkey thug.
Yeah, you wonder why the hunting industry gets a bad rap. There's a lot of douchebags.
Yes.
Man, there really are.
Oh.
I better not say too much, but yes, there are a bunch of them.
And believe me, I know the irony that there's a group of people that think we're douchebags. So I get the irony in that. Alan, quit looking around. But yeah.
What's the term? Self-loathing?
Egocentric. I know that. A lot of ego.
Yeah. Over something that ultimately means very little to other people.
Yeah. So
I think it's very personal.
On that note, can't wait to go tomorrow all day.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We appreciate it. Duncan, thanks for hopping by.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Till next time. Peace out.
DeerCast is now supercharged with maps. Get ahead of your game with killer new features like live Doppler radar, wind check out to 5 days, virtual rain gauges, GPS path tracking, and more. Plus, get our 14-day revolutionary DeerCast prediction and access to DeerCast Track. Prep, predict, and pursue with DeerCast.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV is brought to you by DeerCast. Prep, predict, and pursue your target buck.